Hello and welcome to the Soul Reaver Cut content video, a series of videos that focus on the content that was originally planned to appear in Soul Reaver but was eventually cut out from the game. As some of said content later reappeared later in the series, mostly in Legacy of Kain Defiance, these videos are made without any regard to spoilers, so if you do not want to hear those, then you may wanna hold back on watching this video until familiarizing yourselves with the games, as they are most definitely worth it. Except Blood Omen 2. No, really, don't play it, it's bad. In this video, we will be dealing with the topic of Soul Reaver, or to be more specific, elemental enhancements of Raziel's Wraith Blade that were originally planned to appear in the game. Soul Reaver has only 3 varieties of the Wraith Blade present in the game: the unnamed basic spectral and material versions, and the Fire Reaver, which was the enhancement obtained in the only elemental forge in the game, the Fire Forge. The Fire Reaver enhancement allows the blade to burn the enemies instead of making them explode, and empowered the projectile to burn enemies, making it quite spammable. The Fire Reaver is the only enhancement that can be earned in all of the retail versions of the game without using cheats, the debug menu, or hacks. First and foremost, the game was intended to have a Reaver enhancement for each elemental force deadly to the vampires of Nosgoth, corresponding to Raziel's glyphs, barring the Force glyph. As such, in addition to the Fire Reaver, Soul Reaver was meant to also include Stone, Sound, Water, and Sunlight Reaver enhancements, each of them being obtained through their elemental forges. The placeholder effects for these Reavers are all present in the game code, but the only way to obtain them is through the debug menu or by hacking the game. Each Reaver was to have its distinct color scheme, with a white and purple Sound Reaver, white and cyan Water Reaver, and a silvery white Sunlight Reaver. The white and yellow Reaver is suspected to maybe be the Stone Reaver, but this is not something that we can say with any degree of certainty. While each of those Reavers was supposed to have its unique effect, the models that are present in the game code are but placeholders, and the graphical effects that are present for the Sunlight and Water Reavers seem to be purely cosmetic. Finally, the game would have included the possibility to imbue the Reavers with the corresponding elemental powers, but to my knowledge there wasn't a specific way to do so designed for these enhancements. In addition to the elemental enhancements, there are 3 other that were cut from the game: the Spirit Reaver, the Aerial Reaver, and the Amplified Reaver. Little is known about the Spirit Reaver. It is believed that it would have been silvery green in color, like the souls in the game, and that the enhancement would be somehow connected to these souls. It could also have had a glyph counterpart in the Spirit glyph, which is, like the Wraith Blade enhancement, obfuscated by the lack of any related files left in the game. All we know about the glyph is an entry in the Prima strategy guide, stating that it creates a localized vortex of soul-sucking energy, tearing the souls out of any enemies within a prescribed radius. The souls are magnetized directly into Raziel, replenishing his health energy. Basically, the only thing we really know of the Spirit Reaver is its color. The Ariel and the Amplified Reavers are the only Reavers that can actually be easily obtained in the released version of the game, and are permanent enhancements that would be tied to the story progression, as opposed to the elemental forces. Not only that, both are shown in the FMVs in the end of Soul Reaver, as this is what the future was supposed to be in the original plans for the game. The Ariel Reaver is a bright yellow blade, and the means of obtaining it would be by consuming Ariel's soul, as only then would the Wraith Blade become capable of killing Kain. This Wraith Blade can be obtained in the released version of the game by using cheat codes, changing the color of the blade to yellow, and the color of projectile to that identical of the Fire Reaver projectiles, but it doesn't have any special combat properties and is ultimately purely cosmetic. The Amplified Reaver, or the Kain Reaver, was supposed to be the final weapon obtained by Raziel, and this enhancement was to stem from consuming Kain's soul. This was to be the ultimate weapon designed for Raziel to fight through hordes of vampires as he was moving towards the pipes of the Silenced Cathedral in order to wipe out all the vampire kind. This enhancement was supposed to create a Wraith Blade with black core and reddish-orange lighting effects around it, like shown in the Soul Reaver endgame FMV. While in most versions the Amplified Reaver appears exactly like that, the quote-unquote Kain Reaver that can be spawned via cheat codes in the PC version is different. Instead, it has a white core and pink lighting effects. Like Ariel Reaver, this enhancement is purely cosmetic. The concept of Reaver enhancements would later reappear in Soul Reaver 2 and Defiance. In Soul Reaver 2, Raziel would finally be able to enhance the Wraith Blade with multiple elements, namely darkness, light, fire, and air. The elements were now tied not to the glyphs, but to the pillars of Nosgoth and the safeguard mechanism, the mechanism created for the pillars by the ancient vampires and centered around the Reaver. The subterranean ruins showed the symbols for the elemental Reavers, as well as the symbols for the Wraith Blade enhancements that were cut from Soul Reaver 2, Water, Earth, and Spirit. All of these Wraith Blade enhancements would finally appear in Defiance. The Spirit Reaver would now be used not to kill Kain, however, but to cleanse him of Nupraptor's corruption, enabling him to fulfill his role as the Scion of Balance and the Balance Guardian. The Wraith Blade was not the only thing to obtain enhancements in Defiance. The blade wielded by Kain, the physical blood-consuming Reaver, would get its own enhancements corresponding to the pillars of Nosgoth. The Reaver had 5 of those: Balance, Dimension, Time, Conflict, and Energy, the latter 2 being disguised as Flame and Lightning. There were intended to be Reaver enhancements for the other 4 pillar elements, States, Nature, Mind, and Death, but they themselves were cut due to time constraints. Finally, the Reaver would be enhanced with Raziel's soul for the final fight against the Elder God to become, once again, the Soul Reaver. Another concept that appeared in the future games is that of a game-breaking Doomsday weapon available in the very endgame. First, in Soul Reaver 2, when Raziel travels to the pre-Blood Omen era, he is forced to use the physical Reaver against the Seraphon due to the influence of Mobius' staff, with the blade instantly healing all his wounds, rendering Raziel invincible for the final stretch of the game. Then come Defiance. Raziel purifies the Wraith Blade with Ariel's soul, creating the Spirit Reaver, which is the most powerful weapon in the game, capable of killing even the most powerful demons in just a few blows. Funnily enough, Kain's Soul Reaver that he obtains in the end of Defiance for the final battle is not actually powerful, as the effects that it has were programmed exclusively for the final fight, and it was never designed to be used against regular enemies. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.